The following video was created for the purposes of criticism, commentary, and parody. The usage of copyrighted works in this video does not directly compete with the original works in question or the copyright holders on a monetary standpoint, or act as a replacement for the original works. Most of the footage used in this video is heavily edited and or commented on top of, and only the appropriate amount of footage is used in order to facilitate the critique and commentary present throughout the video. Christmas. A time of giving, gathering, and glee. A time of snow, Santa Claus, and more snow. The time of the year almost everyone looks forward to, no matter who they are, where they come from, and what their age. Oh, and something about some dude being born amidst a flock of farm animals and being the son of God and the one true messianic figure or some such. Actually, you guys up in the northern hemisphere have your snow, while us southern folk get our time under the sun. Yeah, it's summer here down under. And that point about the nativity, in all honesty, I take that aspect of Christmas seriously. But that's neither here nor there. In true Christmas fashion, I, the one and only C.R. Martin, would like to give you all a heartfelt gift, another Christmas edition review. Ho 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 ho! Yeah, I'm in a giving mood this season. Christmas just has a way of bringing out that side of you. What can I say? I gotta make this one really special, as in, I want this to be unlike any video I've done before. I want to look at something I haven't looked at yet. What to review, what to review. I got it. I know what I'm gonna review. The Amazing World of Gumball. What? You guys didn't let me finish. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, calm down, people. What I meant to say was I'm reviewing an episode of Gumball that I haven't looked at yet. Does that clear things up? It does? Good. So, without further ado, I would like to talk about Gumball's Christmas episode. Christmas? No, I didn't stutter. That's the episode title, like how the Halloween episode was simply titled Halloween. Unlike the Halloween video that I did, this'll be a review on one episode only. That's because I don't really consider the Season 3 episode The Lie a holiday episode or an episode meant to coincide with a holiday. It's less a remembrance of a holiday and more of a parody of the creation and commercialization of a holiday. It's nothing like The Scam, which despite the original intent behind it still aired during Halloween week, at least in the United States. And on top of the episode itself being centered on the holiday, it also carried the Halloween spirit in a lot of aspects, between the aesthetics, the plot, and the atmosphere. Despite the obvious and not so obvious parallels to Christmas in The Lie, I never got that same impression from it, and that's why that episode's out of the question for now. Some of you might be disappointed, but them's the breaks. That takes care of that. Now for the featured episode, Christmas. Things start off pleasant and cheery with all the Elmorians getting into the Christmas spirit. Everyone is in such a good mood that they bid the viewers Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! When the air is filled full of Christmas cheer, only
Merry
one
Christmas!
more.
That's pretty cute and thoughtful. But the mood does a 180 when the Watersons run over a random passerby. Vehicular homicide on a holiday. I remember witnessing that during my Christmas when I was 12 years old. Good times, good times. Why would you show that? The Watersons take the stranger, who may or may not be Santa Claus, to the hospital. Richard, wrought with guilt over T-boning Santa Claus, who I'd like to once again state this gentleman may or may not be, engages in his typical shenanigans across the hospital and then the rest of Elmore, thus kicking off one of the two plots of the episode. The other plot, which also starts at around the same point, involves the kids trying to rehabilitate the stranger and make him remember that he's Santa Claus, which again we're not even sure of, and all while Nicole loathes the fact that her family is as dysfunctional as it is. So the antics that follow this are standard fare for a Christmas episode. Now sure, there are traces of Gumball's trademark cynicism, like the scene at the mall with the Santa's workshop area.
I want 4 ponies. 1 for the bedroom, 1 downstairs, 1 for the bathroom, and a spare one no one else is allowed to use. And I want a princess tiara and a prince to marry me when I'm old enough so I never have to work like Mom.
But I don't think it's right to give kids whatever they want or they end up spoiled brats. Like this one.
Yeah, this is why there's a certain age where you should stop believing in Santa Claus, otherwise you end up bitter, jaded, and resentful. But if you look past those nuances, there's nothing here that makes this Christmas episode just a little bit different from the rest. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at a few facts about this episode. It opens up with the townspeople in the Christmas spirit, the plot is centered on Santa Claus, the visual design and animation adhere to the theme of Christmas to a T, and most of the beats in general have been done before by numerous Christmas specials. I'd like to go into detail, but you get the gist of it. There's familiarity to be had with a large portion of this episode, and in several cases, you can see these aspects coming from a mile away. Eventually, Nicole steps in to try and talk some sense into her children and the stranger, who were still unsure is Santa Claus. She does this by recounting a story from her past.
When I was a little girl, there was only one thing I ever wanted. So every year I wrote a letter to Santa asking for the same present.
Remember that part.
I hoped and hoped and hoped again. But he never came.
No wonder why she is what she is today. Wait, what did I say a while ago? Yeah, this is why there's a certain age where you should stop believing in Santa Claus. Otherwise you end up bitter, jaded, and resentful. I was not expecting that. Were you? After that, we get a somber musical number about Christmas coming to a most abrupt end. Pretty nice cinematography for a so-so song. I mean, it's not a bad song, but it's not something that'll stick with you for long periods of time. It is just a bunch of lyrics placed on top of a classical piece, which would be Ludwig van Beethoven's 7th Symphony.
Come shed a tear for wishes unanswered. Give back your gifts, for Christmas is cancelled.
The plot reaches a turning point when Richard discovers an idle sleigh and a reindeer in front of it. That can't be what I think it is, can it? No, that's preposterous. No way. I don't buy it for a second. No.
I almost thought that I could be Santa.
Stop! Freeze! Deactivate!
Dad?
Ho, 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 ho.
Santa!
Right. How long have I been out? Is it still Christmas Eve?
Yeah, but...
Good, then it's not too late.
What a twist! So it really is true. This unkempt, disheveled, outhouse-smelling, thick-bearded hobo really is Santa Claus all this time. Who would have thought? Except... I kinda did. And so did a lot of other people watching at home. As the great Geese Howard puts it, it is predictable, and also rather half-baked. I don't think any reasonable human being would look at this guy and take the entire length of the episode to figure out that he's Santa Claus. The thinly veiled clues spread out across the episode should give it away just like that. It's pretty elementary, though I can somewhat forgive the predictability because Brian Blessed has just the right voice for Santa Claus.
All I need is my sack! Pass the magic sack for some walkie-talkies, and I'll tell you how to I don't know, I never use them myself. But at least you're facing the right way. All lives are more important than Christmas. Just jump!
Request denied, sir. We're saving Christmas. Over.
Oh dear.
Ah, that baritone though. Finally, after all these years, Nicole meets face to face with Santa just as she told when she was a child.
Nicole Watterson, I've been looking for you.
Santa?
I've been meaning to talk to you about these.
My letters.
Every single one. You send them to the South Pole. I live in the North Pole.
Yeah, it's an honest mistake. I mean, just take a look at FedEx or UPS. And we get a moment that would be heartwarming, and it still is.
This is long overdue.
Really?
Well, what is it?
The most beautiful gift I could ever wish for.
It's just like us.
Yeah, close enough.
But it also raises some pretty important questions that seem rather throwaway but really aren't, which I will bring up shortly. Maybe it's just me, but I was looking for so much more in this episode. I guess we're all just spoiled with how good Halloween was. Not only was that episode true to the Halloween spirit, but it took the concept of Halloween, ran the country mile with it, and threw a monkey wrench or two to make it distinct from others of its ilk. This one was... paint by numbers. I said that this episode has almost every Christmas special idea that you've seen in other similar episodes. You've got the Christmas-style aesthetics, a plot that, to be honest, feels somewhat all over the place, featuring numerous plot threads that have been done before, like the celebration, cancellation, and renaissance of Christmas, and a musical score featuring instruments characteristic of the holiday, like bells and organs. My guess is that the writers kinda threw these ideas in and expects them to write the episode on their own, except it just leaves a lot of them underdeveloped. It's sorta like giving someone a lump of unmolded clay and expecting them to make out a vase from that indiscernible mess. It doesn't really work like that. Ideas don't write an episode. Writers write an episode. And whether they come up with the idea or derive from an existing idea, the point is that they take that idea and go from there. On top of the somewhat haphazard feel of the episode, nothing about it really surprises you, which is too bad because, as I said, Halloween had enough surprises in its bag to tell you that you're watching something different from what you've seen before. Again, I'm probably too much of a wishful thinker, but there's no harm in wanting more from your favorite show, as long as you're not being an ass about it. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to bring up a couple of problems I have with that scene with Nicole and Santa. I believe that they're significant enough to not be overlooked. First off, let's listen to what Nicole said earlier one more time.
When I was a little girl, there was only one thing I ever wanted. So every year I wrote a letter to Santa asking for the same present.
Now let's look at her conversation with Santa.
This is long overdue.
Really?
Well, what is it?
The most beautiful gift I could ever wish for.
It's just like us.
Yeah, close enough.
So what did we pick up from that? She's been sending multiple letters to Santa, even as she becomes a teenager, which I dare say is somewhat of a red flag. Why the hell would any person still unironically believe in Santa Claus past their adolescence? Any person with a 2-digit IQ. She's been asking for the same present over and over again, and the present is a set of plushies modeled after the whole family. Questions. 1. How could Nicole not realize somewhere down the road that she was sending those letters to the South Pole instead of the North Pole? Surely she must have noticed something was off. I'm pretty sure that kids who have fantasies about Santa Claus know the basics about Santa Claus, like his 8 reindeer, his workshop run by elves, and the fact that he lives up north. 2. Did Nicole really want those plush toys ever since she was a kid? Believe it or not, this question is the more pressing of the two, and it really bothers me. So, did she have her life planned out for that long? Did she send her first letter to Santa before or after meeting Richard? I highly doubt it's the latter because she looks relatively younger here than she did in the flashback in the choices. Did she really picture herself being married to a 600-pound rabbit, giving birth to a feline son and a leporine daughter, and adopting a goldfish boy? Did she have such vivid images since her childhood? I really can't think of any other reason why she would want a present like that for such a long time. I don't know if this is an oversight or if she really had a significant part of her life completely mapped out. The little girl part in Nicole's story might seem innocuous, but it isn't. Not to me. And since this plot needs to function, it's never addressed at all. You guys might disagree with me and say that I'm too much of a nitpicker here, but it's in my job description. And suspension of disbelief can only go so far. Feel free to argue against this all you want, but it's just the way I see it. That's a testament to the haphazard feel of the episode. Of course, I'm not saying that there's nothing good to be had in this episode. I'm not saying that the writing is non-existent, otherwise we wouldn't have this episode to begin with. Most of the jokes were pretty good, as you'd come to expect from Gumball at this point, and the dialogue remains as on the ball as ever. From the more technical side of things, the animation is sharp and beautiful, which is another thing that's a given for Gumball. And Santa could have easily fallen into the uncanny valley because he's a human being or an ethereal entity portrayed as a human being, but his proportions and overall design fit right at home in the show. And the other thing I'll give this episode props for is actually keeping up a hopeful mood for most of its runtime. Yes, it has that cynicism that we know and love the show for, but even in the most jaded instances, there's always even the faintest trace of light to be had amidst the darkness and dreariness. I'm glad that Gumball made an exception to preserve that hope throughout the episode as opposed to its usual denying the audience of satisfaction. For a Christmas episode, it's to be expected, but given how Gumball loves to throw you for a loop in some way, shape, or form, this is a breath of fresh air, and actually the closest thing to a surprise that the episode has. What does that make my final score for Christmas? I give it a 3 out of 5. It's a step down from the previous holiday episode. Given that we've seen what the writers can do with this type of episode, it's a bit lacking. It's not totally devoid of merit, and there's enough of it that they outweigh the shortcomings, even the widest gaping holes. Contrary to what some of you may think, I don't have that much of a problem with reusing familiar concepts, as long as those concepts are used in a unique way. And as I said back in my review of the Copycats, being original nowadays is difficult, but it's still no excuse to not make an attempt. I'm hoping that we can get at least one more holiday episode just so we can see the progress of the show manifest in this specific way. I want to see what a newer holiday episode would be like and compare it with the ones we've gotten. Seeing how far the show has come, I'm confident that it'll turn out great. And I think that about wraps up this review. The year is nearing its end, and it's been one hell of a ride. There's still one more video to go, and that will be my appended top 10 Gumball episodes list. Stay tuned for that, you won't want to miss it. Once again, I'm the one and only CR Martin, and I think my family's about to open up the presents, and I'm off to join them. Merry Christmas, everyone!